You ever notice how some families have a talent for celebrating the wrong things? Mine turned it into an art form. While I was closing million-dollar deals in Silicon Valley boardrooms, my parents were posting Facebook celebrations about my younger brother's latest gaming achievement. The champagne flute trembles slightly in my fingers as I scroll through their feed, watching them gush over Marcus hitting some new high score while my company's biggest contract signing sits in radio silence. My name is Avery Montgomery, and at 29, I've learned that being successful in your family's eyes has nothing to do with actual success. I'm the director of sales at CloudSync Solutions, a SaaS startup that just landed our first Fortune 500 client. And I've been chasing my parents' recognition longer than I've been chasing seven-figure deals. The irony isn't lost on me that I'm better at reading corporate executives than my own family. The smell of expensive coffee drifts through my Palo Alto apartment as I prepare for another day of what my mother calls that computer job. She still asks when I'm going to find something more stable, like teaching, while depositing the checks I send to help with their mortgage. My BMW sits in the covered parking spot that costs more per month than most people's car payments, a symbol of everything I've built that somehow remains invisible to the people who raised me. Marcus still lives in their basement in Ohio, 26 years old, and treating every gaming tournament like the Olympics. Don't get me wrong, I love my brother, but watching my parents frame his participation certificates while my sales awards collect dust in boxes feels like living in some twisted parallel universe where achievement flows backward. Last month, they drove 4 hours to watch him compete in a regional tournament that awarded a plastic trophy and a $50 gift card. Yesterday, I closed an $1.8 million deal that will fund my company's expansion into 3 new markets. The notification sound on my phone breaks through my morning routine. Another family group chat message, this time with photos of Marcos holding his latest gaming headset, some limited edition that apparently makes him semi-professional now. My mother's response bubbles with excitement. So proud of our champion. Can't wait to see what you accomplish next. The message thread shows 17 responses of congratulations, heart emojis, and promises to share the news with extended family. I scroll up through weeks of similar messages, looking for any mention of my work. The silence is deafening in its consistency. When I made director last year, increasing the company's revenue by 43%, I got a single "That's nice, honey" text from my mother, sandwiched between enthusiastic discussions about Marcus's new gaming setup and what restaurant they should try for his birthday celebration. The pattern has been so reliable I could set my calendar by it. The leather chair in my home office creaks as I settle in with my laptop, surrounded by the kind of sleek technology that powers real businesses, not fantasy worlds. Through my floor-to-ceiling windows, I can see other young professionals heading to offices where their contributions matter, where results get noticed, where effort equals recognition. Out here in California, I'm surrounded by people who understand that building something real takes more than good reflexes and strategic button pushing. But late at night, when the congratulatory emails from colleagues and clients fade into read receipts, I still find myself checking my phone for the message that never comes. The one where my parents acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, their daughter has accomplished something worth celebrating too. Instead, I get forwarded articles about the mental benefits of gaming and suggestions that I should find a hobby to help me relax from all that computer stress. The morning sun catches the edge of my diploma from Stanford, hanging next to industry awards that recognize actual impact on actual businesses. My MBA gleams in its frame, a reminder of 2 years spent studying while working full-time, graduating summa cum laude while Marcus was discovering his passion for competitive gaming. The student loans I paid off ahead of schedule, the networking events where I was often the only woman under 30, the late nights mastering sales strategies that would eventually transform how CloudSync approaches enterprise clients, none of it registered as achievement worth acknowledging. I remember the day I got the Stanford acceptance letter. I called home, breathless with excitement, ready to share news that felt like validation of everything I'd worked toward. My mother's response still echoes in my memory. "That's wonderful, honey. But Marcus just made it to the state finals for his gaming tournament. We're so excited." The conversation shifted immediately to hotel bookings and travel plans for supporting his competition, while my future at one of the world's top business schools became a footnote in their celebration planning. The disparity became more obvious during family visits. Their refrigerator showcases Marcus's tournament brackets and team photos, carefully arranged like a shrine to digital victory. My business cards from 3 different promotions never made it past the kitchen counter. When I brought home a bottle of Dom Perignon to celebrate my first 6-figure salary, my father asked if it was really necessary to spend so much on fancy alcohol when Marcus needed a new graphics card for his setup. But what really crystallized the pattern was last Christmas. I'd spent months planning the perfect gifts, using my year-end bonus to give everyone exactly what they'd mentioned wanting throughout the year. For Marcus, I bought the custom gaming chair he'd been researching for months, the one with built-in speakers and massage functions that cost more than my monthly car payment. His reaction was everything I'd hoped for: genuine excitement, gratitude, immediate plans to show it off to his online friends. My gift from them was a generic spa gift certificate, the kind you pick up at the grocery store checkout line. Not because I'd expressed interest in spa treatments, but because that's what you give to women when you don't know what else to buy. The card was still attached, price tag partially torn off but still visible, $39.99. The mathematical precision of their investment in my happiness versus Marcus's was impossible to ignore. Standing in my kitchen now, surrounded by the markers of success I've built entirely on my own, I can feel the familiar tightness in my chest that comes with loving people who seem incapable of seeing you clearly. The espresso machine hums to life, Italian-made and precisely calibrated, like everything else in my carefully curated adult life. These are the symbols of achievement that matter in the real world, the world where performance metrics and revenue targets determine worth, where results speak louder than reflexes. Yet somewhere deep in my mind, I'm still that little girl who brought home straight A's only to find them overshadowed by Marcus's participation ribbon from soccer camp. The patterns established early apparently have remarkable staying power, evolving from childhood slights into adult-sized blindness that encompasses 6-figure salaries, advanced degrees, and corporate leadership roles. Somewhere in Ohio, my parents are probably planning another family dinner to celebrate Marcus's latest virtual victory, while I sit here wondering what it would take for them to plan one for me. The call came at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right as I was reviewing quarterly projections in CloudSync's glass-walled conference room. My phone buzzed against the polished mahogany table, displaying Mom, just as my CEO Jennifer was explaining how my pipeline management had positioned us perfectly for our biggest opportunity yet. I let it go to voicemail, focusing instead on the presentation that would determine our company's trajectory for the next 18 months. That voicemail would become a monument to everything wrong with my family's priorities. Avery, honey, you have to call us back immediately. Marcus just qualified for the North American Gaming Championship. Can you believe it? We're beside ourselves with excitement. Dad's already looking at flights to Las Vegas. This could change everything for him. Call us back as soon as you get this. We want to share the good news. 23 minutes later, I closed the biggest deal in CloudSync's history. Meridian Financial, a Fortune 500 client with offices in 12 countries, signed a 3-year contract worth $1.8 million in annual recurring revenue. The conference room erupted in applause as Jennifer announced that this single deal would fund our expansion into European markets, secure our Series B funding, and guarantee jobs for our entire team through 2021. My hands were still shaking from adrenaline as colleagues lined up to congratulate me, their faces reflecting the same mixture of relief and triumph that comes with knowing you've just witnessed something career-defining. I called home from my office 30 minutes later, my voice still carrying the electricity of success. The signed contract lay spread across my desk, pages of legal language that translated into validation, security, and proof that every 70-hour week had been worth it. I could barely contain my excitement as my mother answered on the second ring. Mom, I have incredible news. I just closed the biggest deal in our company's history. We're talking $1. 8 million annual recurring revenue with Meridian Financial. This is going to transform our entire business trajectory and— "Oh, that's wonderful, honey," she interrupted, her voice carrying that particular tone reserved for humoring children who are excited about things adults don't understand. "But did you get our message about Marcus? This gaming championship could lead to sponsorship deals, real money, not just salary. We're thinking this might be his breakthrough moment." The words hit me like ice water. Real money. As if the 6-figure salary I'd earned through Stanford Business School, industry certifications, and 5 years of climbing corporate ladders somehow didn't qualify as authentic. As if the revenue I just generated, enough to fund 12 full-time salaries for an entire year, was play money compared to potential sponsorship deals that might cover Marcus's gaming equipment. I spent the next 15 minutes listening to detailed plans for Marcus's Vegas trip, while my contract pages grew cold on my desk. The flight costs, hotel arrangements, and time off work they'd both take to support his tournament participation. My father got on the phone to explain the bracket system, the prize structure, and why this particular competition could launch Marcus into professional gaming careers that, according to him, were the future of entertainment. Though, when I finally managed to redirect the conversation back to my deal, mentioning that local business journals wanted to interview me about the largest tech contract signed in the Bay Area that quarter, my mother's response was swift and devastating. "That's nice, dear. You know we don't really understand all that computer business stuff. But Marcus's achievement is something we can really be proud of. Something we can really be proud of." The phrase echoed in my head as I hung up, staring at the contract that represented everything I'd worked toward since graduation. My computer screen displayed congratulatory emails from clients, colleagues, and industry contacts who understood exactly what I'd accomplished. My calendar showed interview requests from 3 different publications wanting to feature the deal as a case study in successful enterprise sales. But in Ohio, my parents were booking flights to watch Marcos play video games. The next morning brought a cascade of family group chat messages. Photos of Marcos with his gaming setup, screenshots of tournament brackets, excited speculation about prize money and sponsorship opportunities, 47 messages of family celebration, complete with promises from aunts and uncles to watch the live stream and cousin commitments to share social media posts supporting his championship run. My deal announcement, sent to the same group chat 12 hours earlier, had received exactly 3 responses: a thumbs-up emoji from my cousin Sarah, a congratulations from my uncle David, and a question mark from my grandmother, who clearly hadn't understood what I was announcing. The mathematical precision of their engagement was impossible to ignore. Marcus's gaming qualification generated more family excitement than any professional achievement I'd ever shared. The evidence was right there in my phone, documented in real time, showing exactly where their pride and attention flowed when given the choice between celebrating virtual accomplishments and real-world business success. I screenshotted the message thread, not sure why I was documenting the disparity, but knowing somehow that I needed proof of this moment. Proof that I wasn't imagining the pattern, wasn't being oversensitive about family dynamics, wasn't overreacting to what some might call simple misunderstanding. Because deep down, I was starting to realize this wasn't misunderstanding at all. This was choice. And they kept choosing to celebrate everything except me. The breaking point came 3 weeks later, during what my family calls their Sunday check-in call. I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop in downtown Palo Alto, reviewing quarterly performance metrics that showed I'd exceeded my sales targets by a 127%, when my phone buzzed with the familiar family group FaceTime request. Marcus had just returned from Las Vegas, and apparently the celebration required my participation. On screen, my parents flanked Marcos in their kitchen, their faces glowing with the kind of pride usually reserved for graduation ceremonies or wedding announcements. The kitchen counter behind them was covered with what looked like a homecoming celebration: balloons, a custom cake that read "Gaming Champion," and several gift bags that clearly contained Marcus-focused presents. "Avery, you missed the most incredible weekend," my mother gushed, angling the phone to show the full celebration setup. "Marcus placed 7th out of 200 players. 7th! And he won $800. We're so proud we could burst." 7th place. $800. I stared at my laptop screen where Meridian Financial's signed contract renewal sat open. They'd just agreed to expand their package by an additional $400,000 annually based on the success of our initial implementation. The irony was so sharp, it physically hurt. My father jumped in, his voice carrying the kind of excitement I'd never heard directed toward my achievements. The whole family watched the live stream. Uncle David, Aunt Carmen, even your grandmother figured out how to watch on her iPad. We had a viewing party. Marcus was incredible under pressure. Real champion material. I found myself taking notes on a napkin, unconsciously documenting the celebration details as if I were preparing a case study. Custom cake, approximately $60. Balloons and decorations, roughly $40. Time invested in celebration planning, clearly several days. Family members mobilized for support, at least 8 people. Total financial investment in recognizing Marcus's 7th place gaming finish, over $200, not counting the Vegas trip expenses. "That's really great, Marcus," I managed, genuinely happy for my brother despite everything. 7th place in a national competition is impressive. But then my mother's next words crystallized everything I'd been feeling into sharp, undeniable clarity. "We've been thinking, Avery, maybe you could take some time off work to come home for Marcus's celebration dinner next weekend. We're inviting everyone. The whole extended family wants to celebrate his achievement. It would mean so much to have his successful sister there to show support." His successful sister. The phrase hung in the air like a challenge to reality itself. I was the successful sister, wasn't I? The one with the Stanford MBA, the six-figure salary, the corporate leadership role that was literally featured in this month's Bay Area Business Journal. But apparently, success was relative, and in their equation, eighth place in a video game tournament outweighed closing multi-million-dollar business deals. I could feel something shifting inside me, like tectonic plates finally deciding to move after years of pressure. "Actually, I can't take time off right now. I'm preparing for our Series B funding presentation. We're raising $12 million based largely on the Meridian deal I closed last month." The phone went quiet for a moment. Then my father's voice, careful and patronizing. $12 million sounds like a lot, honey, but isn't that just theoretical money? Marcus's prize money is real. We can deposit it in the bank today. Theoretical money. I stared at my reflection in the coffee shop window, watching myself process the moment when my father reduced a venture capital funding round, one that would determine whether 53 people kept their jobs and whether our company survived its next growth phase, to theoretical money. Meanwhile, $800 in gaming prize money qualified as the kind of real achievement that warranted extended family celebrations. That night, I started what I now think of as my documentation project. Not out of vindictiveness, but out of a need to understand whether my perception of this pattern was accurate or if I was somehow distorting reality through my own disappointment. I created a simple spreadsheet tracking family recognition events over the past 2 years. The data was devastating in its clarity. Marcus's achievements, gaming tournament placements, new equipment acquisitions, online follower milestones generated an average of 12 family phone calls, 6 social media posts, and at least 1 in-person celebration per quarter. My professional achievements, promotions, major deals, industry recognition, speaking engagements, generated an average of 1.3 acknowledgement messages, 0 social media mentions, and 0 in-person celebrations over the same period. The most striking entry was from my promotion to director last year. I'd increased CloudSync's revenue by 43% in my first 6 months, earning recognition from the Silicon Valley Business Council as Rising Executive of the Year. The same week, Marcus had unboxed a new gaming headset in a YouTube video that received 47 views. My family's response ratio: Marcus's unboxing video received 23 family comments and shares. My industry award received 2 text messages saying, "Congratulations." I shared the spreadsheet with my colleague Jennifer during our monthly one-on-one meeting, initially just as context for why I sometimes seem distracted during family-related calls. Her reaction was immediate and visceral. "Avery, this isn't normal family dynamics. This is systematic devaluation of your contributions. Have you ever considered that this pattern might be affecting your relationship with success itself?" That question haunted me for days. Was I subconsciously downplaying my own achievements because I'd learned that celebrating them led to disappointment? Was I holding back professionally because part of me had internalized the message that my work wasn't worth recognizing? The answer came the following week when I almost declined a speaking opportunity at the Stanford Business School Alumni Conference. The invitation was significant. They wanted me to present our Meridian deal as a case study in enterprise sales strategy to current MBA students. But my first instinct was to turn it down, worried that sharing the opportunity with my family would just create another situation where my achievement got minimized or overlooked. I caught myself mid-thought and realized something crucial. I was starting to hide my success to avoid the pain of having it ignored. I was making myself smaller to fit into a family dynamic that couldn't expand to accommodate who I'd become. That realization changed everything. It was time to stop waiting for their recognition and start demanding the respect my achievements had earned. The Stanford Business School Alumni Conference was scheduled for the same weekend as Marcus's celebration dinner, and for the first time in my adult life, I chose myself. The decision felt revolutionary and terrifying in equal measure, declining a family obligation to pursue professional recognition that might actually acknowledge what I'd built. Standing before 200 MBA students and faculty members presenting the Meridian Deal case study, I experienced something I'd never felt at a family gathering: the electricity of being truly seen for my competence. The audience asked sophisticated questions about negotiation strategies, client relationship management, and revenue optimization. Their respect was tangible, based on demonstrated expertise rather than familial obligation. Dr. Catherine Wells, the program director, approached me afterward with an offer that would have made my parents proud if they understood what it meant. "Avery, we'd like you to consider joining our advisory board. Your practical experience combined with your strategic thinking is exactly what our students need to bridge academic theory with real-world application." She handed me her card with a smile that conveyed genuine professional admiration. I drove back to Palo Alto that evening with a kind of clarity I hadn't experienced since childhood. The contrast was impossible to ignore. In academic and professional settings, my contributions were valued, discussed, and leveraged for future growth. In family settings, those same contributions were minimized, misunderstood, or completely overlooked in favor of celebrating virtual achievements that had no real-world impact. The confrontation began the next morning with a phone call I should have anticipated. My mother's voice carried the particular blend of hurt and accusation that I'd learned to dread. "Avery, I don't understand why you couldn't prioritize family for one weekend." Marcus was so disappointed that his sister didn't think his achievement was worth celebrating. For the first time in years, I didn't immediately apologize or explain myself. Instead, I asked a question that had been building for months. "Mom, when was the last time you celebrated one of my professional achievements with the same energy you put into Marcus's gaming accomplishments?" The silence on the other end stretched long enough for me to realize she was genuinely struggling to remember an example. When she finally responded, her voice was defensive. "We celebrate your achievements all the time, honey. We just don't understand all that business stuff like we understand Marcus's competitions. You understand prize money and tournament brackets, but not revenue growth and corporate contracts," I pressed, feeling something shift in my willingness to accept their explanations. "You can follow his gaming rankings, but not my promotion to director of sales at a company that's about to go public." "That's different, Avery. Marcus's competitions are easier to follow. Your work is so complicated, and frankly, it seems like just another corporate job. Marcus is pursuing something unique, something that could make him famous. The words hung in the air like a challenge to everything I'd built. Just another corporate job. I looked around my apartment, the result of 5 years of climbing corporate ladders that had earned me enough to live independently in one of the most expensive cities in America. The framed Stanford MBA on my wall, the industry awards on my bookshelf, the Tesla in my parking spot, all evidence of a life built through strategic career decisions that my own mother had just dismissed as routine employment. "Mom, I need you to understand something," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "What you call just another corporate job has allowed me to become financially independent at 29. The Meridian deal I closed last month will be taught as a case study at Stanford Business School. I was just invited to join their advisory board. These aren't routine accomplishments. They're the result of years of strategic career building that you've never acknowledged." Her response revealed everything. "Well, we're proud of you, honey, but success isn't everything. Family should come first. Marcus needs our support right now. He's at a crucial point in his gaming career." Gaming career. Crucial point. The language she used to describe Marcus's hobby carried more gravity than she had ever applied to my actual career. The pattern wasn't accidental or unconscious. It was a systematic choice to value his potential over my proven results. I spent the next week documenting everything with the methodical precision I'd learned in business school. Screenshots of family group chats showing celebration patterns. Photos of their social media posts featuring Marcus's gaming achievements versus the silence around my professional milestones. A timeline showing family investment in his tournaments versus their attendance at my work events. The evidence was overwhelming and heartbreaking. Over 18 months, they'd attended 3 of Marcus's gaming competitions, traveling across state lines and taking time off work to support him. They'd missed my promotion celebration, my company's launch party, and the Stanford alumni event where I was featured as a keynote speaker. When I calculated their financial investment in supporting his gaming versus acknowledging my career, the ratio was approximately 12-1. Armed with this documentation, I made a decision that would change our family dynamic forever. I scheduled a family video call for the following Sunday, with one condition. I wanted to share something important, and I needed their undivided attention for 30 minutes. No multitasking, no interruptions, no pivoting to other topics until I'd finished what I needed to say. The call started exactly as I'd predicted. Marcus was in the background, half focused on his computer screen. My parents were distracted, clearly expecting another routine check-in. But when I opened with, "I need to talk to you about a pattern I've documented in how our family celebrates success," their attention sharpened. I shared my screen, showing them the spreadsheet, the timeline, the financial calculations. I read direct quotes from their own messages, showing the enthusiasm gap between their responses to gaming achievements versus professional accomplishments. I presented the data like a business case, methodical and undeniable. By the end of my presentation, the video call was completely silent. Marcus had turned away from his computer entirely. My parents looked genuinely shocked, as if seeing their own behavior reflected back to them had revealed something they'd never consciously recognized. "I love you both," I concluded, "but I need you to understand that your daughter has built something significant here. I need you to decide whether you want to be part of celebrating that or if I need to find my recognition elsewhere." The conversation that followed would determine whether we could rebuild our relationship on more equitable terms or whether I'd have to accept that some families simply aren't capable of seeing all their children clearly. The 3 weeks following our confrontation passed in complete radio silence from Ohio. No Sunday check-in calls, no family group chat messages, no casual texts about weather or holidays. The quiet felt both liberating and devastating, like the relief of finally speaking truth coupled with the grief of potentially losing people you love because they can't handle hearing it. I threw myself into work with renewed focus, no longer carrying the emotional weight of constantly seeking validation that never came. CloudSync's Series B funding round closed successfully at $14. $2 million, largely based on the revenue projections from our Meridian contract, and 2 additional Fortune 500 deals I'd closed in the aftermath of our family conversation. Jennifer promoted me to VP of Sales, making me the youngest executive in the company's history. The professional recognition felt different now, cleaner somehow, without the underlying current of family disappointment. When the Silicon Valley Business Journal featured me on their cover as one of 30 under 30 tech leaders to watch, I celebrated with colleagues who understood exactly what the achievement represented. No more measuring their excitement against family indifference or wondering why my success didn't translate into parental pride. Then Marcus called. Not through the family group chat, not during a scheduled Sunday call, but directly to my cell phone on a Tuesday evening while I was reviewing Q4 projections. His voice carried a maturity I hadn't heard before, stripped of the casual confidence that comes from being the family favorite. "Avery, I need to apologize," he said without preamble. "I've been thinking about everything you showed us, and I realized I've been part of the problem. I never questioned why my gaming stuff got so much attention while your actual career got ignored. I just accepted it because it felt good to be celebrated." His honesty caught me off guard. For years I'd focused my frustration on my parents' behavior without considering Marcus's role in perpetuating the dynamic. But he was right. He'd benefited from the imbalanced attention without ever questioning its fairness or advocating for equal recognition of my achievements. "I looked up your company after our call," he continued. "CloudSync, the Meridian deal, your promotion to VP. Avery, what you've built is incredible. I couldn't do what you do in a million years, and I'm embarrassed that I never told you how impressive your career actually is." The conversation that followed lasted 2 hours, covering years of accumulated feelings and misunderstandings. Marcus revealed that he'd always felt pressure to be the special one in the family, the child with unique talents worth celebrating, which had made him unconsciously territorial about family attention. He'd never considered that his success and mine weren't mutually exclusive, that celebrating both of us might actually strengthen our relationship rather than diminish his importance. "I want to do better," he said as our call was winding down. "I don't know how to fix what happened with Mom and Dad, but I want you to know that your little brother sees you now, really sees you, and I'm proud as hell of what you've accomplished." Mom and Dad took longer to come around. The breakthrough came 6 weeks later, during Thanksgiving, when they finally called to invite me home for the holiday. The conversation was stilted at first, filled with the careful politeness of people rebuilding trust after fundamental assumptions have been challenged. But something had shifted. When I mentioned that CloudSync was being courted by 3 different acquisition offers, my mother's response was immediate and engaged. "What does that mean for your role? Would you stay with the company or move on to something new?" No dismissal, no redirection to other topics, just genuine curiosity about my professional trajectory. The real test came during Christmas, when I announced that I'd accepted a position as Chief Revenue Officer at a Seattle-based startup, nearly doubling my salary and giving me equity that could be worth millions if the company went public as projected. The family group chat response was swift and enthusiastic. 17 messages of congratulations, questions about my new role, and excitement about my career growth. Marcus posted on social media for the first time about one of my achievements, sharing the news article about my appointment with a caption that read, "My sister is literally taking over the tech world and I couldn't be prouder. When she inevitably becomes a CEO, I'm definitely name-dropping that we're related." The contrast with previous years was striking. My parents started asking informed questions about my work, remembering details from previous conversations, and sharing my achievements with extended family members who then reached out with their own congratulations. They'd begun treating my career with the same attention and respect they'd always given Marcus's gaming pursuits. But perhaps the most meaningful change was internal. I stopped measuring my worth against their recognition and started building a life that celebrated itself. My new role in Seattle came with a team of 12 sales professionals who looked to me for leadership and strategy. My Stanford advisory board position connected me with brilliant minds who valued my insights. My professional network had grown to include executives who sought my advice on complex deals and strategic partnerships. The apartment I bought in downtown Seattle has floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, a home office designed for video conferences with Fortune 500 executives, and wall space dedicated to achievements that matter in the world where I've chosen to build my life. The family photos are there too, but they're balanced now with evidence of everything I've accomplished independently. What surprised me most was how much lighter life became when I stopped waiting for external validation to feel successful. Your family's ability to see your worth doesn't determine your actual value. It just determines whether they get to be part of celebrating the amazing life you're already living. Some families need evidence before they believe in you. Others need confrontation before they start paying attention. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is build something so undeniably impressive that their recognition becomes irrelevant because you've finally learned to recognize yourself.